Big One brought about significant changes in the industrial landscape, and companies had to rethink their strategies accordingly. Apple originally planned to release the iPhone Z at the end of September, but it was delayed by nearly 3 months and finally launched just before Christmas last year. Similarly, Karos also postponed its new car launch by several months, releasing it now that the new year has begun. It is true that Karos possesses the most advanced autonomous driving technology. However, there were numerous hurdles to overcome before commercializing this technology. How many companies with good technology have disappeared? If it weren't for OTK company's investment, Karos would have likely been sold to another company or remained a software provider. Surprisingly often, the company that initially develops the technology fails, while another company succeeds in commercializing it and hits the jackpot. However, we poured in tens of trillions of won to overcome the obstacles to commercialization. Through continuous research and development, we raised the level of our technology. We acquired Chrysler and built new factories. And through our partnership with Samsung Electronics, we solved the supply issue for autonomous driving hardware. Karos' value has skyrocketed since our acquisition, but regardless, it was reporting huge losses every quarter. Money was constantly being poured into research and development, driving tests and factory construction, while vehicle sales continued to decline, reducing revenue. As with all industries, economies of scale are particularly important in the automotive sector. Even when cars aren't selling, you can't cut employee salaries, and the maintenance costs for the sales network and service centers still need to be paid. After a long period of investment, the launch of the new car is finally just around the corner. Although development was completed a while ago, one crucial task remained: deciding on the name. There are 2 main ways to name cars. One is to attach words that suit each model, or the other is to combine letters and numbers according to size and type. For example, Volkswagen within the same group uses Golf, Tiguan and Passat, while Audi uses A4, A6 and Q5. Whichever method is chosen, it's most important that consumers can clearly recognize what kind of car it is just by hearing the name. After discussions between management and public relations experts, they decided to take the initials from autonomous driving car, to create the name AD, and then add numbers based on the order of release. The sedan model was named AD1, and the SUV model was named AD2. As AD also means Anno Domini, it also implied ushering in a new era for automobiles. This approach is also a current trend, and its biggest advantage is that it saves on naming costs in the future. The price of the AD1 is $39,900, and the AD2 is $44,900. Options can add around $5,000 to the price. This is quite expensive for a mid-size car. The engine is a highly modified version of the existing model, but the design is completely new. The most distinctive feature is the interior. The cabin is equipped with a dual display, allowing all systems to be operated by voice and touch. Both the AD1 and AD2 use gasoline. Isn't diesel more popular these days? They don't use diesel much for passenger cars in the US. In Korea, diesel is mainly used even for SUVs, while in the US, even large pickup trucks all run on gasoline. Diesel has better fuel efficiency with the same amount of fuel. This also leads to higher industrial demand, and international oil prices for diesel are higher than gasoline. Taekyu tilted his head. Gasoline is more expensive in Korea, isn't it? That's because of taxes. The high taxes on gasoline have created a price reversal phenomenon where diesel is relatively cheaper. This is why Korea is a somewhat unique market where diesel cars sell well, unlike other countries. Either way, this car is the last internal combustion engine vehicle that Karos will sell. With the launch of the new car, all previously produced Chrysler vehicles have been discontinued. And Karos is now developing new electric vehicles. The success of this car is crucial for the smooth progress of future release plans. I wonder how many will sell? There are many reasons why it might not sell well. Low brand recognition, high price, and plenty of cars with better performance in the same price range. On the other hand, there's one key reason why it might sell well. It's equipped with the most advanced autonomous driving technology of any car currently available. Taekyu pointed at me and said, "There's another reason, your recognition." I chuckled. I doubt it. There was a time when my popularity swept across the United States. But that was already 4 months ago. During the rescue efforts, There were many sacrifices and numerous heroes emerged. The media mentions about me have significantly decreased. Still, it will likely be a big help in sales, right? 10 days before the launch, they decided to start taking reservations online for 50,000 units of each model. The reservation fee is $100, and it's fully refundable before delivery. Isn't 100,000 units a bit much? It's certainly a significant number. I talked to Daryl yesterday and he's confident they can sell out before the official launch. Tesla received 450,000 reservations for the Model T. But that was an electric vehicle and it was something only Nikola could achieve. And while Tesla gathered reservations from all over the world, Kairos is only taking reservations in the US. Will they really be able to fill 100,000 reservations before the official launch? Reservations were scheduled to begin at midnight local time. The time difference between Detroit, where Kairos headquarters are located, and Seoul is 13 hours. We all had lunch together at a nearby Korean restaurant, waiting for the reservations to begin. I put down my chopsticks after a few bites. Hyunju Nuna asked, "Are you nervous?" I was about to shake my head, but then I said honestly, I'm feeling a different kind of nervousness than when I'm investing. Even if it's not a huge hit, it needs to at least do okay. With our financial resources, we won't go bankrupt even if the new car fails. But strategic adjustments will be unavoidable. Ellie said affectionately, "It'll be fine, don't worry too much." Taekyu added, "That's right. When I talked to Chairman Im Jin-young just now, he said it would be a success too." Well, even if he didn't think it would sell well, would he say that before sales even started? Chairman Im Jin-young is probably hoping it will sell well too. Samsung Electronics is Kairos' top priority partner. They've invested a significant amount of money, and the group's fate is also tied to it. Since we're all in the same boat, it's natural for them to want it to succeed. Ellie looked at her watch. It should have started by now. I took out my phone and accessed the website. Seeing the two cars on the first screen brought a fresh wave of emotions. My chest felt full and I even felt like I might cry. Seeing my expression, Ellie asked, "Are you moved?" "Yes, a little." Taekyu nodded. Considering how much money was spent to bring these cars into the world, it's understandable that you might tear up. We did spend a lot. That's why I might actually cry if it fails. The number of reservations is displayed in real time, and once it's full it moves to a waiting list. Taekyu said, "Should we each make a reservation first?" Huh. Think about it. Even a beggar starts by putting a few coins in there when they're begging. Of all the analogies you could have used. But what he's saying makes sense. Showing that buyers are flocking to it in the initial stage could stimulate purchasing desire. That's a great idea. We all put down our spoons and quickly took out our phones to click the reservation button. It's not going to the next page. Me neither. Same here. Then the connection completely dropped and nothing was displayed. Taekyu said urgently, "Aren't we going to be able to get even one reservation at this rate?" Huh. Payment needs to go through when people are motivated to buy. If you miss the timing, people might not buy what they intended to. Is that so? The start is the most important part of pre-orders. You need to maximize sales when people's interest is high. Are we really going to fail like this? Just as I was thinking that, Kairos called. As soon as I answered, Daryl shouted. The website crashed because of the surge in reservations. Reservation calls are pouring into the company right now. Ronald posted on Twitter. A new car made by American workers in an American factory has been launched. Congratulations to Kairos and CEO Kong Jinwoo. He not only posted on social media but also called me directly. Long time no see. How are you doing? Yes. Hope you're in good health too, Mr. President. Ronald, who had spearheaded the rescue efforts at the shelter, returned to the White House at the end of the year to carry out his presidential duties. I had talked to him occasionally since returning to Korea, but it had been a while this time. Ronald chatted casually like he was talking to a friend. Domestic and international issues and those Democratic Party folks are driving me crazy. By the way, I tried to buy one, but the reservations are already full. It's all thanks to your promotion on Twitter, Mr. President. Though the reservations had filled up before that. Ronald laughed, seemingly pleased with my words. Ah, that's right. We should meet up soon, shouldn't we? I'd like to see you too. Just let me know and I'll go to the US anytime. All right. Give my regards to that friend of yours. He was referring to Taikyu. I will. It wasn't just lip service. I really felt like seeing him since it had been a while. Maybe it was because we went through the crisis of the earthquake together, but he felt like an old colleague. I then talked to Daryl. He said with an excited voice, "We've received an additional 230,000 reservations. So this is what production hell is like." I understand how Tesla CEO Alan Eberhart must feel. Even though he said that, he seemed thrilled that the factories that had been idle were now running at full capacity. The union was also reportedly ecstatic due to the increased overtime. Since the launch schedule was delayed, I thought we had manufactured enough units after converting the production lines to the new car beforehand, but that supply was instantly depleted. The new factories are partially operational, but they're nowhere near enough to meet the demand. Once all the new factories are completed, the capacity will increase to 5 million units per year. Since the new factories are primarily for electric vehicle production lines, the production capacity for the AD1 and AD2 was limited to 1.5 million units per year, no matter how much we increased it. As expected, the AD2 accounted for nearly 70% of sales, proving the popularity of SUVs. Orders were flooding in not only through the website but also to dealerships. Online sales were handled directly by Keros, while offline sales were entrusted only to existing dealerships. Dealerships that had severed ties due to incentive issues flocked back, demanding to sign contracts again, but they were all rejected. We would keep our loyalty to the dealerships that stuck with us during the difficult times when cars weren't selling, but there was no need to do business again with those who had turned their backs and left. Currently, there were no major issues with sales even without those dealerships. The AD1 and AD2 were shipped in order of reservation. As expected, they immediately became the focus of critiques and reviews by automotive experts. Gerard Clark, the host of the world's most famous automotive program Top Motor, personally came to the United States, drove the AD1 around a track, and delivered a mercilessly critical review. Acceleration, cornering, braking power, fuel efficiency, it lacks distinction in every aspect. It performs adequately, but you shouldn't expect anything more. Driving this car is an ordeal. I wouldn't want to drive this car even if it was given to me for free. But as everyone knows, this car's true strength lies elsewhere. Gerard Clark turned on classical music and took out a newspaper to read. Meanwhile, the car continued to drive around the track as before. I previously drove Google's autonomous vehicle, but this is on another level. It's on par with experimental vehicles cluttered with various electronic devices. Compared to Tesla's autopilot, it's several steps ahead. I can confidently say that it boasts the highest level of autonomous driving among currently mass-produced cars. The AD1 then exited the track and entered the road. It recognizes signals and surrounding conditions, starting and stopping on its own. Once you set the destination and route, there's almost no need to touch anything. While the driving performance is infuriating, this technology is truly amazing. Even with the release of a perfect product, various problems are bound to occur in real-world driving situations. For example, if sensors or cameras are damaged or the software crashes, autonomous driving immediately ends, and it switches to manual driving. According to current law, the driver is responsible even during autonomous driving. Autonomous driving worked almost flawlessly in normal situations. People who actually drove it were amazed and the media showered it with praise. Keros new cars AD1 and AD2 launched. Pre-orders sold out. The most perfect autonomous driving system available. The most innovative car of the 21st century. Keros takes its first step into the era of driverless cars. Is Keros becoming the Apple of the automotive industry? Despite the high vehicle prices, Keros' profit margin is at best around 10%. This is only the case when the factories are running at full capacity. Otherwise, there would be almost no profit. The reason is the high manufacturing cost of the vehicles. The largest portion of the cost is the autonomous driving components. Vehicle APs, semiconductors, communication equipment, 3D cameras, LiDAR, sensors and more. Most of these components were supplied by Samsung Electronics, and over 30% of the vehicle sales revenue flowed to Samsung Electronics. However, Samsung Electronics wasn't making much profit either. Considering the development costs that had been poured in so far, it was practically a loss. Nevertheless, Samsung Electronics cheered and its stock price soared. Stock prices reflect future value. Samsung Electronics hadn't found a future growth engine after semiconductors and smartphones, but now it had become a leading company in the automotive electronics sector. Costs can be lowered through mass production and technological development. Other companies won't just sit idly by, but if Kairos establishes economies of scale by seizing the market first, the technological gap can widen even further. Until now, the autonomous driving sector had been a battleground for automakers, IT companies, electronics companies, and ride-sharing companies. With Kairos being the first to release an autonomous vehicle, each of these companies began scrambling to find countermeasures as if their feet were on fire. The car is more than just a machine. It's an indispensable part of the American way of life. That's why, when the big three automakers crumbled during the financial crisis, Americans felt their pride wounded. Ronald's promise to save the domestic car companies struck a chord. Traveling across America by car, you see seemingly endless roads that stretch on for days. U.S. Route 66 spans 2,500 miles, approximately 4,000 kilometers, from Chicago, Illinois, to Santa Monica, California. Autonomous driving technology shone brightest not in complex city centers, but on these highways stretching across state lines. Once the destination and route were entered, the car simply drove along the road. During this time, the driver could listen to music or rest. The car adjusted its speed according to the car in front and changed lanes on its own. Buyers who received their cars expressed great satisfaction. Drove from San Antonio to Las Vegas, and except for refueling and eating, I didn't have to drive myself at all. Feels like I could just put my hands on the wheel and take a nap. I've used Tesla's autopilot, but this is a true revolution. I dozed off in the middle of the drive, and an alarm woke me up to tell me I had arrived at my destination and autonomous driving had ended. Don't expect much from the driving performance. My first ride left me furious that this kind of car costs $45,000. But after using the autonomous driving once, I get it. It's worth $60,000. Damn it. I'm number 183,000 on the waiting list. When will it ever come out? For your information, the AD1 is being shipped faster than the AD2. Consumers in other countries, including Korea, also showed great interest. Is the era of truly driverless cars finally dawning? When will it be released in Korea? Want to try it too? I think legal revisions need to happen before that. It won't happen before Unsung Motors releases their own. You're wrong. Cars are a key industry, so countries will always support their own brands. That's the case all over the world. Automotive experts generally praised it as the car with the most perfect autonomous driving capabilities, though there wasn't much positive feedback about the driving performance. However, Tesla's CEO Alan Eberhart was particularly vocal with his criticism. Kairos is selling a terrible car at an absurdly high price. This is a terrible thing for the automotive industry. You said while looking at the article, "Why is this guy making such a fuss? I guess we're not to his liking." I personally liked him, but it seems like becoming friends is out of the question. Kairos has many similarities to Tesla. First of all, both started as startups, not traditional car companies. Tesla has overwhelming strengths in the electric vehicle sector, and their autonomous driving technology is also quite advanced. We're trying to create electric vehicles starting with autonomous driving technology, and Tesla is trying to move towards autonomous driving starting with electric vehicles. Currently, almost all automakers are releasing electric vehicles, but none have surpassed Tesla's popularity. This is evident from the hundreds of thousands of pre-orders for the Model T. Tesla's biggest problem is its low production capacity. Although, compared to other automakers' electric vehicle production capacity, it's still significantly higher. As a result, they are experiencing production hell, and then a big one happened. Unlike most automakers that have factories in the Rust Belt, Tesla had its factory near Silicon Valley, and due to ground tremors, part of the factory collapsed, halting operations for nearly a month. It has been restored and is operating again, but even so, it hasn't reached 70% of its previous production volume. Production hell has intensified and pre-order cancellations have accelerated. Could some of them have bought Kairos cars? Tesla's market capitalization, which once surpassed GM to become the top automaker in the US, has also shrunk by more than 30%. Right now it's a competition between internal combustion engine cars and electric vehicles, but when we release our electric car, we will directly clash with Tesla. Looking at the category of automobiles in general, there are plenty of better cars than Tesla. However, looking specifically at the category of electric vehicles, it's hard to find a car better than Tesla's Model A or Model B. We are ahead in the field of autonomous driving, but Tesla is still at the forefront in the electric vehicle sector. However, we have the OTK Research Institute. If Professor Kim Ho-min can solve the stability issues of the new battery, we can create an innovative electric vehicle that lowers manufacturing costs and doubles the driving range. That's when the true era of Kairos will begin. I continually received reports on sales and production volume from the company. Interview requests poured in from domestic and international media outlets regarding the launch of the new car. Due to my busy schedule, I declined the interviews and instead Public Relations Director Young Ji-hong diligently distributed press releases. You asked, when are we going to launch in Korea? Currently, we're struggling to meet the demand in the US. Since road conditions and regulations differ in each country, we need to train the autonomous driving AI for each country, which also takes time. Within the US, we are only working with existing dealer partners. Sales in all other countries will be exclusively online. To meet the order volume, the factory was running non-stop, with overtime and special shifts being implemented. Cooperating companies that had been idle due to lack of work were also busy trying to meet delivery deadlines. Still, it wasn't enough, so we signed contracts with additional partners. When the tide comes in, you have to row hard. Daryl announced plans to launch driverless trucks equipped with autonomous driving technology within this year, while also accelerating the development of electric vehicles for the second half of the year. Having acquired Unsung Motors' heavy truck division, all we need to do is install the autonomous driving system. Of course, we need to go through test driving. Since the railway network is not well developed in the US, inland freight transportation relies heavily on trucks. In Korea, even the longest distances can be covered in a day, but that's not the case in the US. American truck drivers eat, sleep, and spend several days crossing state lines to deliver cargo. Daryl's idea was to move trucks like a train. Trucks would communicate with each other, sharing information about deceleration and acceleration in advance, and maintaining a reasonable following distance. This platooning technology reduces air resistance and significantly improves fuel efficiency. The advent of driverless trucks will dramatically change the transportation system that has existed for decades. Labor costs will disappear entirely and fuel efficiency will also improve, greatly reducing transportation costs. The U.S. Congress has begun revising legislation to allow autonomous vehicles to operate, provided they have received approval. The National Trucking Union immediately issued a statement of opposition and started protests. Just as the advent of automobiles took away the jobs of coachmen, the development of new industries is a threat to those working in old industries. Kairos announced that it would prioritize hiring drivers who would lose their jobs for new factory positions. But discontent did not subside easily. People like their jobs and take pride in them. Telling them to quit and do something else is, in some ways, a very cruel thing to do. However, we cannot stop technological development or turn back the tide of time. Kairos may have accelerated the timeline, but the emergence of autonomous trucks is something that was expected. In fact, this is happening not only in transportation but across all industries. Minimizing side effects like unemployment will be the role of government and businesses. Samsung Electronics stock price continued to rise. 2 days ago, J.P. Morgan and Nomura Securities issued sell recommendations for Samsung Electronics, citing concerns about a slowdown in the semiconductor industry as the supercycle ended. Previously, this would have been a major negative factor that would have caused the stock price to plummet, but this time, everyone just scoffed. What are these idiots saying? Keep putting out sell reports. Who's going to sell Samsung Electronics stock now? Oh, they probably shorted the stock and are getting nervous. These guys issue sell reports and then put in massive buy orders. Haven't we been through this before? Surely no black cows sold based on that, right? Even if the semiconductor industry slows down, the electronics components business is doing so well. Saying the semiconductor supercycle is over is also nonsense. If autonomous vehicles sell well, the demand for semiconductors will continue to increase. Don't forget that Samsung Electronics is the second largest shareholder in Kairos. I guarantee you within the next 3 years, Samsung Electronics stock price will surpass Apple. Samsung Electronics stock price closed up 2% even after the sell reports were released. This is partly due to the anticipation surrounding the electronics components business, but there's another important reason. Since Keros is a private company, its shares are difficult to obtain. OTK company holds the majority of the shares, and the 4% stake held by Daryl and the development team is restricted from being sold until they leave the company. However, Samsung Electronics currently owns 10.5% of Keros's shares and has a call option to acquire an additional 14% in the future. There's no way they wouldn't exercise the call option, so Samsung Electronics will own 24.5% of Keros. Currently, buying Samsung Electronics stock is the only way to invest in Keros, so institutional and foreign investors have been buying heavily. This includes JP Morgan and Nomura Securities, who issued the sell reports. Samsung Electronics immediately reorganized its structure, combining the tasks previously handled by different business units into a new electronics components division, and appointed Lee Myung-ho as president. Lee Myung-ho is a person known as one of the 3 loyal retainers, along with Lee Soo-hak, president of Samsung SB, and Kim Myung-soo, head of the Future Strategy Office. This demonstrated the group's commitment to intensively developing the automotive electronics components sector at the group level. Around lunchtime, I went over to Samsung Town to meet Chairman Im Jin-young. He looked a little tired, perhaps because he had just returned to Korea this morning after a business trip to Germany. Didn't Vice President Oh Taek-you come with you? No, he has some things he's working on. To be precise, the game he was playing wasn't over yet. He wasn't going to move until he saw the ending, so I came alone. What took you to Germany? I had an appointment with Tobias Hilbert, chairman of BMW. BMW is one of Samsung SB's major customers. Currently, BMW's electric vehicles are equipped with Samsung SB batteries. What's the atmosphere like over there? They were very welcoming to me. Since they're the ones making the finished products, there was a feeling of being treated like a supplier in the past, but it was different this time. They seemed very curious about Keros and you and asked various questions. And from what I heard, the big 3 seem to be cooperating in the field of autonomous driving. They're moving quickly as expected. Usually, the German big 3 refers to Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi. Volkswagen and Porsche are in the same group as Audi anyway. Several years ago, the German Big 3 jointly acquired a map specialist company from Nokia. The acquisition price was 2.8 billion euros. The shares were divided equally. However, each had been developing autonomous driving technology independently, but now it seems they've shifted towards joint development. This is the case with other companies as well. When a strong enemy emerges, even those who don't get along tend to band together. Once you fall behind in the competition, it's difficult to close the technological gap. As such, Apple, Google, Nvidia, Evair, GM, Ford, and others were exploring cooperation in areas where they had strengths. The 20 or so leading companies will soon merge into 4 or 5 groups. You know that the AD1 and AD2 have already made their way to Europe and China, right? Chairman Hilbert seems to have even driven one himself. I nodded. Daryl reported it to me. He thinks competitors bought them. Acquiring and analyzing competitors' products is a natural thing to do. Hundreds of units have flowed into China alone. Currently, the US leads the field of autonomous driving, but China's pursuit is not to be underestimated. The Chinese government is promoting future vehicles such as electric and autonomous vehicles at the national level. Chairman Im Jin-young said with a wry smile. By now, Chinese automakers and IT companies are probably taking apart all the electronic equipment installed in the AD1 and AD2. Chairman Im Jin-young said, Korean conglomerates have grown through a fast follower strategy, quickly catching up to new products and technologies. And for about a decade now, China has been rapidly chasing developed countries in the same way. The problem is that they've gone too far and are notorious as copycats. Chinese automakers blatantly copied the designs and technologies of famous luxury cars, and IT companies also copied Apple and Samsung Electronics. Patents are supposed to prevent that, but Chinese companies didn't even bat an eye. Even when companies whose patents were infringed protested, the Chinese government sided with its domestic companies. The reason China can act this way is because it's backed by a huge domestic market. They disregard patents to save on R&D winking and laughing costs and use low prices as a weapon to dominate their domestic market. Then they grow in size and target foreign markets. It's a pattern. By this time, based on their past experience, they've already secured enough patents. They might be able to imitate the hardware to some extent, but they won't be able to imitate the quality. Even if they copy it exactly, wouldn't they struggle to match the cost? The reason Apple orders parts from its competitor Samsung Electronics is that Samsung Electronics is the only company that can make products of that quality at that price. The story would be different if the Chinese government stepped in to support them. The Chinese government has declared its ambition to become a car manufacturing powerhouse and is sparing no investment in electric and autonomous vehicles. To nurture domestic companies, they force foreign companies to establish joint ventures with local companies when entering the market. They also only provide subsidies for batteries made by domestic companies, excluding Korean companies' batteries from the subsidy program, resorting to various underhanded tactics. Still, because China's domestic market is so vast, companies have no choice but to reluctantly comply with government policies. I chuckled. Ultimately, the core is data, isn't it? Hundreds of millions of people around the world search on Google every day, and that data becomes Google's asset. The same goes for MS in the PC OS market, AMZ in the online shopping market, and Facebook in the social media market. Once you achieve a monopolistic position, you can keep widening the gap, making it impossible for competitors to catch up. While other companies are collecting data with a few hundred test vehicles, Kairos can collect data with hundreds of thousands of cars sold to the public. And this acts as a kind of moat that is difficult for other companies to overcome. While visible technology can be copied at any time, data can only be acquired through experience. Anyway, just like the saying, imitation is the mother of invention, if they keep diligently copying, they will eventually reach where we are. We'll have to keep running hard to avoid being caught up. Chairman Im Jin-young nodded. My father used to say that companies need to constantly innovate and grow to survive, and I think I understand what that means now. We used to say that if you sleep you'll fall behind, but now it's if you doze off it's over. That's how much faster the flow of industry has become compared to the past. I said with a smile. The Red Queen said the same thing. As expected, he understood immediately. In Through the Looking Glass. Lewis Carroll's main profession was a mathematics professor and mathematician. He was also a famous photographer. Perhaps because of this, his books often contain stories about mathematics and logic. Among them, the most famous is the Red Queen effect, Red Queen's hypothesis. The Red Queen has to run with all her might just to stay in the same place. This is because everything around her is moving together. Therefore, to get ahead of others, you have to run like crazy. In management, it means that if a company doesn't develop, it regresses and innovation is necessary to move forward. In reality, there are more than a few companies that have unknowingly fallen behind and disappeared into oblivion. Are there any issues with parts production? We are working hard at our Suwon factory to meet Kairos's demand. Timing is crucial in business. No matter how well something sells, it's all for naught if production volume can't keep up. In the meantime, other competitors might swoop in. Fortunately, both Kairos and Samsung Electronics made timely investments. Otherwise, we'd be in a frenzy now, building factories and expanding facilities. Are you enjoying the cars we gifted you? Of course. We both love them very much. Ellie cherishes the Ferrari so much that she even washes it by hand. Hyunju usually rides in the S-Class Maybach driven by her secretary, but sometimes she enjoys driving the Aventador after work. Seeing this, it seems like good cars make people happy. We should make cars like that too. A little later, a person came up to the chairman's office. Chairman Im Jin-young introduced him to me. This is President Lee Myung-ho, who is now in charge of the Electronics Components Division. He was in his early 50s. His small build and cleanly shaven head were striking. In contrast, the hair on the sides of his head was relatively thick. I'm Lee Myung-ho. I look forward to working with you, CEO Kong Jin-hoo. The pleasure is all mine. We shook hands. Since the Electronics Components Division directly collaborates with Kairos, we'll be seeing each other often. Shall we go eat? How about the company cafeteria? Sounds good. I wanted to check it out anyway. Samsung Group's cafeteria is famous for being as good as any professional restaurant. Companies paying attention to their cafeterias is a trend these days. It's about employee welfare and encouraging them to eat well and work hard. In fact, there are research findings that show companies with good cafeterias have higher productivity. We headed to the cafeteria together. Samsung Town consists of 4 buildings connected by an underground level. Approximately 25,000 employees from the electronics and other affiliates work here. It happened to be lunchtime, so the cafeteria was already bustling with employees. Employees were surprised when we appeared. After all, how often do ordinary employees get to see the chairman? Especially in the company cafeteria. Of course, they recognized my face too. Since it was just employees, no one took out their phones to take pictures. Though there were probably some secretly snapping away. The menu was diverse, including Korean, Japanese, Western, and Chinese food. How much does it cost? It's free for employees. Employees of partner companies visiting for work pay 5,000 won. We don't accept outsiders to avoid harming nearby businesses. So, do I have to pay 5,000 won? Chairman Im Jin-young pulled out his wallet and said, "Since you've come all this way, I'll treat you to lunch." We grabbed trays and lined up. Even a busy chairman has to follow the order for getting food. Chairman Im Jin-young naturally greeted the employees in front and behind us in line. "Are there any difficulties in your company life?" The employees replied in unison, "No, sir. It's very enjoyable. Our superiors are all very good to us." It suddenly reminded me of when the division commander visited our battalion during my military service and asked me, a private, if I had any difficulties with military life. I gave the same answer back then. Although I wanted to say, right now is the hardest time. I've noticed before, but Chairman Im Jin-young seems to enjoy these surprise appearances. Taekyu said he has a bit of an attention-seeking personality. Is it true? We filled our trays with the food we wanted and moved to find an empty table. "Is this seat taken?" "No, please sit." "Ha." The employee who had nodded while eating his rice without thinking much suddenly almost spit out the rice in his mouth upon seeing Chairman Im Jin-young. We sat down and ate. The employees around us all looked like they were experiencing indigestion. But leaving without finishing would be even stranger. Still, the atmosphere wasn't too bad. Everyone kept glancing at us curiously. I observed the employees as I ate. Most were young employees in their 20s to 40s, and I even saw some new recruits who looked to be my age. While the men would just be starting to knock on the doors of employment due to military service, many of my female classmates had already found jobs. What's wrong? I was just thinking that if it weren't for Taekyu, I would be employed somewhere too. Chairman Im Jin-young smiled. But now you're the CEO of a giant corporation. Looking at the employees filling the cafeteria, I was reminded of how many jobs a company creates. Industry has a greater job creation effect than finance. OTK company has only a few dozen full-time employees, but it employs tens of thousands of people through its subsidiaries. Thinking that the livelihoods of people I've never even met depend on me made me feel a bit like I had indigestion too. We rented the royal suite at the Grand Dayton Hotel and held a small party. Just the overnight stay costs a whopping 15 million won. Still, I got a 30% discount since I booked it through Golden Gate. People applauded as I uncorked an Armand de Brignac. We filled our champagne glasses and toasted. Simple snacks ordered from the hotel were prepared on one side, and Taekyu ordered pizza and chicken separately. Hyunju asked while smoking a cigarette. People here and there seem to be expecting an IPO. No thoughts on that. Most startups dream of going public. Apple, Google, and Facebook, which were once small startups, transformed into giant corporations by going public. The reasons for going public are to have the company's value properly assessed and to raise capital more easily compared to being a private company. It's not all advantages. Once a company goes public, it has to transparently disclose financial statements, quarterly earnings, investment plans, etc., to protect investors. Is there really a need for that? Thanks to the success of the new car, cash flow is smooth and development costs are sufficient. If we need more money, we can issue bonds. There's no need to choose to go public. How much could we get if Keros went public on the Nasdaq? Hyunju responded to my question. In the current climate, we could get $200 billion. A company bought for $88 million became worth $200 billion in just a few years. Of course, we poured tens of billions of dollars into it during that time. I asked again, what if the OTK Research Institute succeeds in commercializing the next generation battery? Hyunju tapped her forehead with her finger. That's something to think about. But we could definitely get over $300 billion. The fact that Tesla, which can't even sell 100,000 cars a year, surpassed the market cap of GM, which sells millions, is due to the expectation that it will dominate the future electric vehicle market. That's how much potential the electric vehicle market has. Currently, electric vehicle sales are less than 1/10 of internal combustion engine vehicle sales. However, the demise of internal combustion engine cars, which led the last century, is now only a matter of time. And that time is approaching faster than anyone expected. The competition is not just one or two companies. Until now, they might not have paid much attention to Keros, but from now on the checks and balances will intensify. I said, sipping my champagne, the battle for who will be the winner is just beginning. Amidst the busyness, some welcome faces visited OTK company headquarters. It was FaceNote CEO Toby Strong and COO Gerard Bacon. Welcome. We greeted each other warmly after not seeing each other for a long time. Toby said with a sly grin, I saw while walking here, there are a lot of beautiful women in Korea. It's amazing. This was the first time the two of them had visited headquarters. They were briefly stopping by on their way back from a business trip to Japan. The reason for the trip was meetings with Japanese AV companies. They said they met with J1SOB, ECC, Modis and others to discuss content supply. FaceNote has emerged as the leader in the pornography market not only in the US but worldwide. Perhaps that's why they were thrown a grand party to welcome them there. It wasn't just any party. It was a pool party where they rented out the entire pool and played various games with dozens of bikini-clad AV actresses. They both look very happy. Is that the reason? When this fact became known, they once again rose to the status of idols among the Yangdeok, Western otaku. They say the ultimate otaku is a Western otaku. I asked them, how is car infotainment coming along? Autonomous driving frees people from driving. Drivers need entertainment during their travel time, and that's what car infotainment is. Currently, FaceNote is preparing to enter the car infotainment sector using the know-how they've accumulated in the pornography industry. Toby nodded. We're proceeding step by step, consulting with content providers. More importantly, we'd like to receive funding. For what? FaceNote's revenue and profits continue to increase. However, the money earned has been reinvested in producing their own porn and VR porn, so their retained earnings are not that high. We're trying to acquire Dancing Rabbit. What kind of company is that? Toby and Gerard were taken aback by my question. You two don't know that famous company? Haven't you even tried their products? They have good products. So, what kind of company is it? Toby said, it's the second largest adult toy company in the US. Ah. They're acquiring an adult toy company? While prostitution is illegal in some countries and legal in others, in the case of pornography, most developed countries allow it. However, it is still illegal in South Korea. However, as everyone knows, the internet is overflowing with porn, and you can still access foreign websites and watch it as much as you want. And the judicial authorities don't really impose any sanctions on it. Legally, it's illegal, but it's a bizarre situation where watching it isn't punished. Faceit is actively pioneering foreign markets, starting with the United States, then moving to South America, Europe and Japan, but it hasn't been able to officially launch its service in Korea, and even its website is blocked. Surprisingly, though, the number of paying Korean subscribers continues to increase. Anyway, Faceit has now emerged as the absolute powerhouse in the porn market. People called Faceit the Netplay or Apple of the porn industry. Although it seems they really dislike being called that. Toby explained passionately. Dancing Rabbit is currently facing severe financial difficulties due to a series of business failures and has expressed their intention to sell. I've been thinking about entering this market someday, and this seems like a good opportunity. Gerard added, as if providing further explanation. Acquiring Dancing Rabbit is necessary for the success of the VR porn we're currently developing. We're planning to create porn that you can play, not just watch. Huh. What did they say they were going to do? Have you ever had this question while watching porn? What question? Why do I have to just watch the actors I like having sex with someone else? Excuse me. Of course, watching other people do it is enjoyable. But wouldn't it be even more enjoyable to do it yourself? I guess so. As I agreed, Toby confidently stated his ambition. Just as Keros is making self-driving cars, Faceit will combine software and hardware to create a new kind of porn that allows users to have an experience as if they are directly engaging with their favorite actors. Instead of me, who was speechless, Take-you chimed in. Genius. The idea is certainly brilliant. The sex industry has grown alongside human history. However, despite technological advancements, this field hasn't seen much significant progress. Although pornographic videos have been sold in earnest for decades, the only real changes have been in the medium, such as VHS, DVD, Blu-ray and high-definition files. There haven't been any groundbreaking changes. If porn is considered software, then sex toys are hardware. So, they're going to create porn that you can enjoy by combining the two? I was inwardly impressed. It's not easy to dig so deeply into just one well. One of the common mistakes successful entrepreneurs make is losing their initial passion. If they become complacent with their success and the initial creativity and innovation disappear, they become just another company and eventually collapse. But Toby and Gerard were different. Despite achieving enormous success in a short period, their passion for porn was as strong as when they first met. Somehow I felt that these two might truly rewrite the history of porn. Wouldn't people, when talking about porn in the future, mention Toby Strong and Gerard Bacon before Larry Flynt, founder of Hustler, and Hugh Hefner, founder of Playboy? When I said that, Take-you nodded in agreement. And your name as the investor will also be etched in porn history. Huh. Why me? What did I do wrong? Japan is the most active in this field. Several companies have already released VR porn, and sex dolls that can have simple conversations and simulate body temperature have already been launched. If these two were combined, wouldn't it create an enormous synergy? In some ways, this is the true meaning of combining software and hardware. I nodded. What's the acquisition price? After finishing the morning meeting about the additional investment in Facete, it was lunchtime. Once the employees left and it was just the two of us, Senior Manager Sang-yeep asked casually. What are you doing for lunch? Want to eat together? I'm eating with Ellie. Sang-yeep sighed as if lamenting. I'm jealous. I want to get a girlfriend too. You have plenty of women around. What's the point of having a lot? You need substance. Considering that you were just in the news again for dating a girl idol. Dating? We're just seeing each other. Just seeing each other and you got photographed leaving her place together? K Company is the largest shareholder of EDM Entertainment. Unlike other entertainment agencies, EDM Entertainment originally started as an IT company operating a crowdfunding site. Currently, it makes more profit from investing in movies and dramas than from celebrity management. These investments are typically high risk, high return. If an invested movie becomes a blockbuster, you can earn more than 10 times your investment, but if it flops, you can lose your principal. Anyway, due to investment matters, Sang-yeep frequently interacts with the entertainment industry and has been linked to several female celebrities, gracing the entertainment news. What's it like meeting celebrities? Sang-yeep grinned. If you're curious, meet one sometime. There are many female celebrities who want me to introduce them to you. Who? Movie actors, models, idols, and so on. You know Young Si-yeon, right? I nodded. Isn't she a really popular actress these days? She directly asked me for your number. It feels strange that a leading actress in dramas wants to meet me. But if I meet other girls behind Ellie's back, Hyunju Nuna will beat me to death. And I have no intention of doing that. Tell her I have a girlfriend. Doesn't matter. I think she's seeing someone too. What kind of mindset is this? Sang-yeep smiled and said, Be careful. There are more than a few women who like you. Is my popularity that high? As I got off the elevator and walked out, the lobby on the first floor was noisy. You can't do this. I'll report it, so please go back for now. Really? I'm in the same year as Kong Jin-hoo. I saw security team members trying to stop a woman who was shouting. Surprisingly, it was a familiar face. Wavy brown hair, large hoop earrings. Despite the still cold weather, she was wearing a miniskirt that fully exposed her legs and high heels. Her makeup was heavy and flashy, but she had a pretty face. She wasn't very tall, but her proportions were good. She was quite popular on campus. But why is she here? Unlike my bewildered expression, Lee Haimi waved her hand happily. Oh Jin-hoo. Long time no see. It's good to see you. The security team members looked at me and asked. Do you know her? Well. Instead of my hesitation, Haimi said. I told you we're in the same year. We're really close. Weren't we not really that close? Her expression was too bright to deny it. I sighed inwardly and said, What brings you here? I just dropped by after school. Exactly how do you drop by from Gangbuk to Gangnam? Moreover, Jaime wasn't alone. There were about 10 other people with her. The gender ratio was about half and half. They all looked younger than me. Jaime smiled brightly and said, "These are the new business administration students who just started. They all wanted to see you, so I brought them. So they're my junior classmates?" The juniors greeted me awkwardly. "Ah, hello, senior. Nice to meet you." They all stared at me with wide eyes and curious expressions, as if they were seeing a famous celebrity on TV. I could roughly understand the situation. Jaime probably bragged to the new students as usual about being close to Kong Jin-hoo, or even that they were seeing each other. Then when the new students said they wanted to meet me, she brought them to the company without a second thought. So what should I do about this? As I was pondering, I heard a booming voice from behind. "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Turning around, I saw team leader Young Ji-hong from the PR department. Jaime and some of the new students recognized Ji-hong Sr. Unlike me, who rarely goes to campus, Ji-hong Sr. occasionally visits the school with his girlfriend, Senior Hyun-young, or treats the juniors to meals. He says it's to scout talent for the company, but it just seems like he's nosy and likes meeting people. Ji-hong Sr. continued to shout, "Do you think the workplace is your playground? What are you doing, barging into the company without an appointment?" Then, as if to show off in front of the juniors, he bowed deeply to me. "My apologies, Seo, for the disturbance caused by the students from our university." The new students, who had just followed their seniors' lead and were now being scolded out of the blue, were pale with fright. Seeing them like that, I felt a bit sorry for them. I was also clueless and clumsy when I was a freshman. Actually, it's not their fault. Lee Jaime is the one who incited these clueless freshmen. Ji-hong Sr. said in a low voice, "I'll scold them a bit and then buy them lunch and send them on their way." It seems he still wants to take care of his juniors. I nodded. "Buy them something expensive with the company card." "Understood." Ji-hong Sr. said to the new students. "All of you follow me." Instead of following the new students, Jaime naturally touched my shoulder and acted friendly. "Jin-hoo, you've gotten so much more handsome since I last saw you." I went into the cafe on the first floor of the building with Jaime. It was a quiet place, only accessible to employees and visitors of the building. "What would you like to drink?" "A vanilla iced blended. With whipped cream and cinnamon powder." "She's got specific tastes," I said to the employee. "The same as she ordered and an iced Americano, please." As I stood there with my hands in my pockets, Jaime took out her wallet from her Louis Vuitton bag. Should I pay for this?" Then, without waiting for an answer, she confidently handed her card to the employee. "Please charge this." I couldn't help but say, "It's free for employees." "Oh really?" Jaime put her card away with an awkward expression. We sat down with our drinks. Now that we were facing each other, she seemed a bit wary of me. It's no surprise considering how much has changed in the meantime. I've become the CEO of a huge company and she's still a student. But why is she still a student? I took a sip of my coffee and asked, "Didn't you graduate?" Jaime smiled and said, "Nope. I failed a few courses, so I have to go until this semester to graduate." "You should have studied more." I'd been curious about two things. One was how she got into Korea University, and the other was why she chose business administration. She doesn't seem to have much interest in economics or business. "Anyway, what brought you here?" "What do you mean brought me here?" "I just came to see a fellow classmate's face. Do you know how surprised I was when I heard the news? Everyone at school is talking about you. I've heard roughly what's going on. Yuri occasionally tells me news from the school." "Have you heard about Sianal?" "Yeah. I met up with her once before she got married." "I see," Jaime said as if something just occurred to her. "Do you remember Tai Myung-ho? Master Chicken's son?" "Yeah. He went to study abroad and just came back to school. Looks like he didn't drop out." "Well, he got in after trying 3 times, so he probably didn't want to drop out." After talking about school for a while, Jaime changed the subject. "Have you had lunch?" "I'm about to go eat." "Perfect. Then let's go eat together. I love steak." Is she asking me to buy her some? I have a lunch appointment. I thought she'd give up if I said that, but I underestimated her. Jaime's eyes lit up. "What kind of appointment? Can I come too?" "Huh. Why would you come to my appointment?" As I was thinking that, Ellie called. I'm inside the building, where are you? I'm in the cafe on the first floor. Okay, I'll head over there. Ellie walked right into the cafe. As usual, her shoulder-length brown hair was tied back and she was wearing a black suit. She was so stunning that even the cafe employees couldn't help but stare. Ellie approached our table, looked at Jaime and said with a smile, "Hello. Fancy seeing you here again." Jaime's eyes widened as she looked at Ellie. Why are you here? They had bumped into each other briefly at school before. It was probably a bad memory for someone. I introduced Ellie. This is my girlfriend, Ellie. You've met her at school before, right? Jaime's eyes became even wider. Girlfriend. Ellie sat down next to me and I naturally took her hand. What were you two talking about? She was saying she wanted to have lunch with me. That's great. It would be nice to have her join us. Jaime, who was flustered and didn't know what to do, suddenly seemed to remember something. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot I had an appointment. I'll call you later, Jean-Hu. Then she grabbed her bag and quickly got up. She didn't forget to take her half-finished coffee with her. Ellie watched Jaime's retreating figure and asked me, "Why was that woman here?" I shook my head. I have no idea. I'm just as confused as you are. Why did she come anyway? There's a saying that success breeds friends. Ever since I became successful, I was overwhelmed with people seeking me out. Not just business people and politicians, but even guys claiming to be kindergarten and elementary school classmates I didn't recognize came to the company. Wouldn't it be fair to say there are thousands of people in Korea alone claiming to be my close friends? Lost in these thoughts, I arrived at the meeting place and got out of the car. I was dressed like a student in jeans and a padded jacket, and I wore a baseball cap pulled low, worried someone might recognize me. The indoor Pacha, Korean pub, near the university which I hadn't visited in ages, was quiet. As I stepped inside, Min-young and Kyung-jil, who had arrived earlier, waved their hands. Over here. Min-young looked much the same as he did in university, and Kyung-jil was wearing a hat, perhaps to hide his short hair. How's everyone been? My friends greeted me warmly. It's been too long. We thought you'd forgotten all about friends and everything after becoming successful. Of course not. You changed your number all the time too. Ah, right. I had changed my phone several times. Come to think of it, Yuri is the only person from university whose number I have. They probably both figured I didn't want to be contacted. I thought about visiting you at the company, but I figured just showing up wouldn't be right. You get a lot of those people, don't you? Plenty. As the saying goes, those with good intentions don't seek you out, and those who do rarely have good intentions. That's why I came to meet my real friends who haven't sought me out during all this time. How have you guys been lately? How have we been? I work for a defense contractor and he's in the military. Unless you hold foreign citizenship, men have to resolve their military service issue. Though if you have money and connections, you can usually find a way out. Min-young got a job at a defense contractor for his alternative service, and Kyung-jil enlisted in KATUSA, Korean augmentation to the United States Army. I'm jealous of you having finished your military service early. What are you talking about? It's 100 times better to go late than to go active duty. Seriously, do you know how shocked I was when I saw the news? The guy who cleaned up in the UK during Brexit was my friend. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Yeah, how come you didn't say a word all this time? I laughed and apologized. Sorry. I was originally trying to keep it a secret during university, but things just turned out this way. If Taekyu hadn't been arrested, I probably wouldn't have revealed my identity. It's all because of Park Si-hyung. Anyway, it's amazing that the world's best investor is my friend. It's surreal. World's best? Warren Buffett is still alive and kicking. Ah, that's right. You even met Warren Buffett in person, didn't you? He had lunch at your place, right? Wow. That's unbelievable. We clinked our glasses and caught up on old times. As expected, talking to old friends makes the conversation flow easily. Do you go to department stores and just buy whatever luxury items you want? Waving your VVIP card around with the branch manager coming down to greet you. That has happened a few times. But neither Taekyu nor I are particularly interested in shopping or luxury goods. Among the super rich, there are those who live in a way unimaginable to ordinary people, while others like Warren Buffett drive old cars, live in old houses and enjoy donating to charity. I guess it's just a difference in personality. I asked Kyung-jil, How's Katusa? Is military life bearable there? Don't even mention it. I almost died because of you. Huh. When he first joined Katusa, the senior soldiers, knowing he was in the business department at Korea University, asked him about me. At the time, the atmosphere was positive, so Kyung-jil showed them pictures of us together, bragging about his friendship with the CEO of OTK company, and they were all impressed. But then when I stirred up the controversy by claiming Big One was coming, public opinion among Americans turned very negative. This sentiment was shared by the U.S. military in Korea. The arrows of anger were directed at the Katusas in the unit. The American soldiers openly harassed the Korean soldiers, and Kyung-jil, who had been bragging about Kang Jin-woo being his friend, started having a seriously difficult time in the military, getting harassed by both the American and Korean senior soldiers. During the day, the American soldiers were on my case, and at night the senior soldiers were on my case. It was so hard I even thought about deserting. Actually, a few guys went out on leave and didn't come back, and the whole base was turned upside down. But then the real earthquake happened and the situation reversed. The American soldiers once again treated the Katusas with love and appreciation, and Kyung-jil's status within the unit skyrocketed simply because he was in the same department as me and was my friend. From then on, military life became incredibly easy. All that happened because of me. Want to come visit sometime? There are a lot of American soldiers who want to see you. I'll think about the visiting part. I don't even want to get close to the military. I asked Min-young, what are your plans for the future? I need to think about it after this is over. Whether to get a job or go abroad to study. Since I'm going to study anyway, I'd like to do an MBA program. It's good to learn while you have the opportunity. Working made me realize I regret not studying more. Min-young's family is quite wealthy, so going abroad to study wouldn't be a problem for him. I looked around the pacha and said, drinking soju here brings back memories. Kyung-jil nodded. Totally. We used to deliberately leave our student IDs out when we were trying to pick up girls. The idea was to show off that we were students from a prestigious university to try and attract women. But it wasn't a very good strategy. If you want to brag about being a Korea University student, you should do it somewhere else, not in a bar right in front of Korea University. Half the people who come here are Korea University students. Do you ever get approached by women on the street now? I chuckled. What are the chances of that? They wouldn't even recognize me. But no sooner had I finished speaking than two women approached our table. They looked to be in their early 20s, maybe a year or two younger than us. Both were pretty with tall, slender figures. One had short hair and the other had long, straight hair. The one with short hair asked cautiously, "Excuse me, we've been watching from that table, but are you by any chance Kang Jin-woo?" I looked at the table she pointed to, and there were two more women sitting there. They were staring intently at us. Before I could deny it, Kyung-jil quickly said, "That's right. He's Kang Jin-woo." At his words, the two women gasped in surprise. "Eek. What do we do? It's really Kang Jin-woo." I couldn't believe it. Without being asked, Kyung-jil helpfully explained, "We're his classmates from the business department at Korea University. We were just having a drink after a long time." "Oh, I see. Oh. We're from the Department of Airline Services at Seoul University." Seoul University is a vocational college across the street from Korea University. They sometimes have meetups with Korea University students, and the Department of Airline Services is particularly famous among male students. That's because there are a lot of beautiful women there. Oh. Flight attendants in the making. The women giggled at that. Not yet. Come on, you'll all be flight attendants after you graduate. That's not necessarily true. Just like not everyone who graduates with a business degree goes into business, not everyone who graduates from the Department of Airline Services becomes a flight attendant. The woman with short hair said, "Would you mind joining our friends and having a drink with us?" Kyung-jil looked overjoyed and said, "Of course. If this were in the past, I might have welcomed it with open arms, but now I have a girlfriend." I looked at Min-young, hinting that he should try to stop Kyung-jil. But Min-young had already moved the adjacent table over and was diligently setting out cutlery and glasses. "Please sit over here." "Yes, thank you." The two women who had approached us and the two at their original table first moved their belongings to our side and then all headed to the restroom together. I said to Kyung-jil, "Why the sudden merge?" "I have a girlfriend." "Girlfriend? Who?" "Well." Before I could answer, Min-young said, Then you just sit tight. We'll take care of the rest. Huh. It's time for me to get a girlfriend too. What's up with him? Min Young had a strict dating rule after breaking up with his senior in college. Never date someone from the same university. So, dating a Seiyun University student is acceptable. I'll pay the bill and leave so you guys can drink on your own. Kai and Jill grabbed my arm, stopping me from getting up. Think about it, man. If you leave, do you think they'll stick around? That girl with the long straight hair is exactly my type. You know I like long straight hair, right? Doesn't every guy like that? And for him, any pretty girl is his type. Though what guy isn't like that? Just stay until I get their numbers. I'm leaving. I'll contact you later. Finally, Kai and Jill resorted to his last resort. Are you really going to do this? I'm a soldier on leave. I have to go back to the base after the weekend. I was dumbfounded. You're in Katusa. Isn't Katusa a part of the military? When I go back to the base, all I'll see are burly burger guys. What are friends for? Please just help me out this once. I need to get married too. Is he already thinking about marriage with her? There's an unwritten rule among guys. You don't have to grant the wishes of the dead, but you have to grant the wishes of a soldier on leave. I had no choice but to sit back down. Only until you get their numbers. Thank you. I won't forget this kindness. While we were talking, the Seiyun University students came back from the restroom and walked towards our table. They all looked even prettier than before. Did they all touch up their makeup in that short amount of time? Min Young said in a low voice. I heard that the Department of Airline Services at Seiyun University doesn't look at grades, just faces. I guess that wasn't a joke. They're definitely all pretty. The women sat down. Kai and Jill and Min Young introduced themselves first, and the women took turns saying their names. They were all sophomores in the Department of Airline Services at Seiyun University, all 21 years old. Kai and Jill and Min Young quickly refilled the women's glasses. All right, let's have a toast since we met like this. It's fate. Nice to meet you. We clinked our glasses. Come to think of it, I've never really done any proper blind dates or pickups. I was dating Sienna from the beginning of university, so I never had the chance to go to those kinds of gatherings, and after that I went to the military and then a lot of other things happened. Min Young asked, what brings you all out on a Saturday night? Then they all pointed to the girl with long straight hair. It's her birthday today. So, we got together for the first time in a while. Min Young clapped his hands and said, wow. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday. He's unusually proactive today. Is it because he works for a defense contractor, a part of military service, that he's so full of military spirit? Suddenly, my own time in the military came to mind and I felt a pang of sympathy. Yeah, when else are you going to support your friends if not now? Kai and Jill asked, do you all have boyfriends? We don't. The girl with short hair pointed to the friend next to her. She has one. The woman who was pointed out waved her hands in denial. Oh no. I don't have a boyfriend. Huh. But you're seeing that guy, aren't you? Another friend chimed in. Yeah, that guy picked her up at school in a Benz just a few days ago. We've just met a few times. He's not my boyfriend. Didn't you go to Cebu together during the break? That was just because our schedules matched up. She looked at me and said as if making excuses, he's really not my boyfriend. Please don't misunderstand. At that point, anyone could tell he was her boyfriend. We continued to clink our glasses. Being like this makes me feel like I've gone back to my university days. If I had stayed in school, would this be how I'd be spending my time? Of course, if that were the case, the women probably wouldn't have approached us first. As I was thinking that, the girl with long straight hair who had been checking her phone occasionally suddenly screamed. Kaya. Kai and Jill asked, what's wrong? I just uploaded the pictures we took to FaceNote, and it already has over 300,000 likes. What? When did we take pictures? I was startled and pulled out my phone. I opened the FaceNote app and it was right there without even having to search. The girl with long straight hair had taken a selfie with her friends, and I was small in the background. Just in case people couldn't tell it was me from the picture alone, they had kindly tagged me below so everyone would know. Hashtag Kongjin Hu hashtag Jinukong hashtag OTK company hashtag Fo hashtag president hashtag tycoon hashtag investor hashtag celebrity hashtag celeb hashtag famous person hashtag Korea University hashtag indoor pacha hashtag drinks hashtag mingling hashtag burning Saturday hashtag sat night hashtag super hot hashtag keeping secret we're drinking together hashtag it's my birthday secret. Are there no end to these hashtags? Min Young said in a panic. Wait a minute. Mike Goldenberg liked it. At those words I was aghast. What? She blinked and asked, who's Mike Goldenberg? Is he famous? None of them seemed to know. Kai and Jill explained, he's the founder and CEO of FaceNote. Mike Goldenberg's influence was immense. The number of likes quickly surpassed 1 million and was heading towards 10 million. The fact that I was out drinking with women was being broadcast to the entire world.